Oh, Jake, good timing. Do you have a moment? On the last day of the new employee training, I was stopped by Kevin from the HR department. Sure, let's head to the break room. Kevin's story was this. There's a promising new female employee among this year's recruits. He advised me to make sure she doesn't quit. This year, take good care of her. The sales promotion department loses new recruits within months every year. Indeed, Kevin was right. I knew the reason why. It was because of the unreasonable demands and harassment by our manager, Bruce, which quickly demotivated the new recruits, leading them to resign. Something had to be done. If this continued, we wouldn't be able to nurture our juniors. I need to take good care of them, I thought to myself. A few days later, just as Kevin said, a new recruit named Emily was assigned to the sales promotion department. I've been assigned here as of today. I'm Emily. Nice to meet you. As she introduced herself, Bruce was sizing her up, which worried me. I decided to take the initiative. Bruce, may I be responsible for Emily's training? Bruce seemed a bit surprised, but then said with a smirk, all right, Jake, I'll leave her training to you. Emily, sorry to ask so soon, but could you come with me? The first place I took her was to the sweets division of the product development department. The chief, Sarah, greeted us. Jake, as enthusiastic as ever, I see. And who's this? Oh, she's Emily, a new recruit this year. We'll probably be needing your help a lot. I introduced her. I've been assigned to the sales promotion department. My name is Emily. Pleased to meet you. She bowed politely. Jess, her greeting was spot on. We were shown the new products the sweets division had released over the past year. As sales promotion folks, we have to answer any questions perfectly when we present new products to clients. Emily looked intrigued. Does that lead to contracts? Well, yes. Have you looked over the materials? Yes. Her energetic response prompted me to ask her a few questions. Then, pretend I'm a client's purchasing agent. What's the selling point of the cheesecake we're releasing in May? It's a low-sugar, 75% reduced sugar raw chocolate rare cheesecake that's delicious despite not using sugar. And what are the countries of origin for the cream cheese and the raw chocolate used in this cheesecake? The country of origin. Do I need to remember that too? Emily looked puzzled. Well, yes. These days, due to food fraud issues and a focus on food safety, people do ask about the country of origin and where it's made. After I explained this, Emily started reading the document again. Just as Kevin said, Emily has potential. Watching her, I thought so. Among the new recruits who only do what they're told, she was very motivated. From the next day, we started visiting our clients' retail stores. It's often said that new recruits these days don't take notes, but Emily was different. Our company is a food manufacturing company that supplies sweets and deli food to supermarkets we have exclusive contracts with. I decided to take Emily with me to visit 17 supermarkets within the state, 2 or 3 stores every day. She was eager and dedicated to her work, and I seriously started thinking about nurturing her talent. Because I was taking Emily out every day, Bruce lost his chance to harass her. I wasn't sure what kind of harassment Bruce might do. For now, I thought I had to be careful until Emily gained enough skills. Then, I kept taking Emily to stores every day, teaching her the job each time. Emily, today I'll teach you 3 important things as a sales promotion person. First, always keep up to date with the product development department. Second, always know the best-selling items in each store you're responsible for. Third, don't try to solve problems alone when something happens. I thought Emily already understood the importance of reporting, communicating, and consulting, which is like the lifeblood of our company organization. Then, one day, a call came from a client. Hey, Jake, about that order error from your side. How are you going to handle it? What? An order error? I hadn't heard anything about that. I was momentarily stunned on the phone. Hey, Jake, are you listening? Yes, sorry about that. I'll check and get back to you right away. After ending the call, I immediately called for Emily. I just got a call from the store manager. What's this about an order error? Her face turned pale. Well, actually, according to Emily, 3 days ago, when she returned from an external visit, there was a message note on her desk. The note said to deliver 300 strawberry tarts, a new product for the month, to the store. In the note, I asked, she took it out of her desk drawer. Since there's no name of who took the call, it's hard to know who wrote it, right? Yes. What do you think you should have done in that case? Should I have checked who wrote it? She answered in a low voice. Well, yes, or maybe you should have confirmed with the store manager if this order was correct. Yes. Her face turned even paler, and her voice lost its strength. But I had to address the important issue, so I continued. Emily, why didn't you report it as soon as you found out about the order mistake? As I said this, she looked even more pale and said in an even smaller voice, I'm sorry. I thought I had to fix it since it was my mistake. Usually, our store orders a total of 100 sweets per day, including a variety of items. It should have been clear that an order for 300 of one kind was unrealistic. I had Emily confirm the real order quantity with the store manager. After she finished the call, she looked almost in tears. I'm sorry, it's supposed to be 30 pieces. I thought so, a digit off. I sighed deeply and asked, Emily, what do you think would be the best course of action in this situation? Her response was unexpected. I'm sorry, I'll pay for the excess myself. What? You're going to buy 270 pieces? Yes. I was speechless at Emily's nodding affirmation. What are you going to do with them? Eat all 270 pieces by yourself? No, I don't think I can eat all of them, she said, looking down. And then, I couldn't help but raise my voice. Do you have any idea how much effort the product development department put into this new product? The same goes for the factory workers. No one makes these products expecting them to be wasted. At that moment, everyone in the department turned to look at us. I felt ashamed. What was the point of taking her to the product development department and the factory so many times? Had she understood nothing? She apologized with teary eyes and a barely audible voice. I'm sorry. I told her, it's okay, go back to your desk, and started calling our other client stores one by one. Some stores said, if you can deliver today, we'll take some. So Emily and I split the task and delivered the 270 pieces we had collected. When all the deliveries were done and we returned to the office, Bruce was waiting. Jake, you've been mentoring Emily for the past month. How do you plan to take responsibility for this? He smirked unpleasantly. Also, I heard you yelled at Emily in front of everyone. That's clearly an abuse of authority. Emily tried to say something, but I stopped her with my left hand. Yes, you're right, I'm sorry. I bowed to Bruce. Look at that, Emily's still looking pale and shaking. Jake, you need to take responsibility for this. Be prepared for that. In a meeting that day, Bruce, who had always disliked me, apparently added a lot to his report and relayed it to the higher-ups. The following week, I was transferred to a factory that makes containers for deli foods. I never thought I would be demoted. For the next few days, I passed on all the knowledge and know-how I had to Emily. Even on the day before my transfer, she still looked gloomy. I really didn't know what to say. I'm so sorry. Emily had been apologizing ever since my transfer was decided. Don't worry about it. Instead, you did well keeping up with my tough training. You have potential. I patted her shoulder and said, well, I've been on Bruce's bad side since I joined the company anyway. It was only a matter of time before I got transferred. I said that, but Emily still looked down. Don't look so down. Keep up the good work. See ya. I thought the work at the transfer factory would be manageable, but it turned out to be more challenging than expected. Years passed, and I eventually decided to leave the factory. I knew how hard it was to change jobs in such a bad economy, but once I left, there was no going back. Every day, I convinced myself while looking at rejection emails. While browsing job listings, I found a vacancy in the sweets promotion department of a nationwide convenience store chain. A nationwide chain, might as well give it a shot. So, I decided to attend the interview. The first round was a written exam on sweets, which I easily passed thanks to my 5 years of experience and knowledge. Today is the day of the second round, the interview. As I entered the interview room, nervous, I saw there were 3 interviewers. I assumed they would ask about my passion for sweets or what I wanted to do in the store's promotion department. I had practiced my interview answers thoroughly, so I was confident. As I looked straight into the eyes of the 3 interviewers in front of me, something unexpected happened. When I made eye contact with one of the female interviewers, she looked surprised and whispered something to the other 2 interviewers before addressing me. Jake, were you by any chance at the Sweets Festival in the city 5 years ago? I was taken aback by the unexpected question. Yes, I did attend that event in my first year at my previous company, I replied, and the female interviewer smiled happily and said to me, I was there too. To be honest, I wanted you for our team back then. Confused, I stared at her. I still vividly remember your responses during that event. All the representatives from various companies could answer about the taste and shape of the new sweets, but you were the only one who perfectly answered about all the ingredients, their countries of origin, and why they were used in those proportions, she said excitedly. Yes, I was a new employee that year and was suddenly sent to the festival by my manager. I studied about sweets every day by visiting the product development department in the factory, so I could answer any question at that time, thanks to the staff and the factory manager. Then, one of the male interviewers said, Wow, it's rare to find a newcomer who can do that much. Your motivation and hard work were what made it passable. As they said this one after another, I felt a bit embarrassed but also happy for the first time in a long while. When the interview ended, the female interviewer said, Anyway, we want people with passion and the ability to work hard. We look forward to working with you. Phew, I got the job. I felt refreshed on my way home that day. Then came my first day at the new job. While I was giving my greeting at the morning meeting, I suddenly made eye contact with a beautiful woman with long hair. She looked surprised when she saw my face. To my astonishment, it was Emily, my former subordinate from my previous company. I was assigned to the sales promotion department, and there was Emily, now a manager, in the same team. Gone was her naive demeanor. She was now confidently managing her work. Can't believe we're meeting here. Indeed, Emily apologized for the past while telling me what happened after I left. She started working independently, and apparently, Bruce began harassing her. Emily couldn't bear it anymore and left the company. She then had an interview with this company, which was then looking to fill a position. Thanks to the training I received from you, Jake, I could easily answer all the interview questions. I even received compliments during the interview for being able to answer so thoroughly. Now, I'm even in charge of training new employees. I've always been grateful to you for everything. Looking forward to working with you again. She smiled happily and bowed deeply. And so, we began working together again, this time in different roles. Rumor has it that Bruce later left the company due to allegations of abuse of authority and sexual harassment. Maybe now people at that company can grow a bit better. Now about the proposal for the new product introduction. Yes, let's hear it. We're now busy every day preparing for a Sweets Festival event happening in 6 months. Looking at Emily, who was passionately instructing the new employees to learn about the products in detail, I felt motivated to do my best too. Man, I'm beat today. Yawn. In the crowded train during the morning rush hour, I let out a big yawn. Right now, I'm working at a bar until the wee hours of the morning. Until last month, I was working as a salesperson at a food manufacturing company. I worked diligently for 20 years. I was a veteran employee. In my job, I had a good client base and my sales performance wasn't bad. In the past, I even won a CEO's award and was promoted year after year. The shadow cast over my otherwise smooth sailing career began with an incident this spring. It all started when our parent company was caught cutting corners in the product manufacturing process, creating a big scandal. My company, caught in the fallout, cites financial situation worsened. Higher-paid managers were encouraged to take early retirement, and I ended up being indirectly laid off in a roundabout way. The severance pay was meager, and unemployment benefits alone weren't enough to cover living expenses. I didn't have kids, so there was no child support to worry about, but I was paying for not only the house and car loans but also the care expenses for my dad, who was ill and in a facility. I needed to find a job as soon as possible. Any job would do, as long as it provided a stable income. The day after I was told about the layoff, I heard that a longtime employee had quit the bar I always visited after work, so I immediately asked for a job. Working nights came with a decent pay bump. I started working at the bar right after leaving the company. Working late hours is pretty tough, but I've gotten used to it. Tired from work, I rang my home's doorbell. Usually, my wife, Linda, would open the door right away, but this time she didn't come out. What's going on? I used my key to open the door. I'm home. Linda was sitting at the dining table chair. Despite it being morning, the curtains were still drawn, and the room was pitch dark. Sensing the bizarre situation, I called out to her while looking at her back. "Hey, is something wrong?" Then she turned around to face me. "Please, let's get a divorce." She muttered just that and bowed her head. What's going on all of a sudden? I've fallen for someone else, that's why. No matter how much I asked for a reason, she insisted on getting a divorce because she had fallen for someone else. I couldn't comprehend what had happened so suddenly, and I was at a loss for words. Linda and I had been married for 4 years. We were originally from the same hometown and high school classmates, reuniting at a class reunion. Both of us had moved to the city and found out we worked nearby, so we started going out for meals after work. Our relationship quickly developed, and it didn't take long before we decided to get married. After getting married, I didn't want to overburden her, so I asked her to quit her job and become a housewife. Since we married later in life, we hadn't planned on having kids. Linda had worked to her limits and didn't seem to have the energy for child-rearing. We always talked things through and shared our feelings, and I was content thinking we were a happy couple. But that was all my assumption. Who was this person she had fallen for? Since when had she been interested in this person? Or were they already close? I had a ton of questions I wanted to ask. Just give me some time alone, please. In the silent room, I reflected on what my wife had told me. I didn't think I was such a terrible husband to be handed a divorce. I wasn't a drinker, nor did I gamble. I didn't have a history of messing around with other women. I thought I had always been kind to my wife. Thought I had. Since we got married, I had always been busy with work, coming home late every day, and spending weekend just sleeping due to exhaustion, hardly ever finding time to talk. Then I got laid off and started working nights. It had been a long time since we last enjoyed time together. Maybe my wife felt lonely being alone. We never even had time to talk about it. It wouldn't be strange if she found someone else who had what I lacked, something that made her unhappy. It was the result of my failure to make her happy. I suppressed my desire to cling to her and decided to accept the divorce. After that, she packed her things and left immediately, and I was left to live alone. "Another day well done," she would say with a smile every day. The days I took for granted now seem like a dream. Since then, I threw myself into work every day to forget her. The bar job was harder than I thought. The business hours were from evening till 5 a.m. Open 365 days a year, no days off. Besides the regular operations, there was a lot to do: making sales reports, training and cooking, submitting reports, attending meetings. There were days I had training from 9 a.m. after finishing work at 5 a.m. I hardly had any time to sleep. But the quietness of a home without my wife was unbearable, so the tough routine was just what I needed. I was totally engrossed in my work. "Max, this month our store's sales are in the top 5 nationwide," my colleague said. "Oh, is that so? Sales reflect customer satisfaction. It means we've really made them happy," I replied. "Yes, indeed. We've been getting a lot of praise from customers lately. Just the other day, I gave a customer some soda water to clean a sauce bowl on their clothes. It worked perfectly, and they were so pleased that they sent a thank you email to our store. Your trick really worked wonders," my colleague shared. "That's great to hear," I said. I was recognized for my achievements and became the manager, working harder than ever. Then it happened. One morning, when I tried to get up, I found I couldn't stand. Suddenly, I was like a puppet with its strings cut, unable to move. After a while, I could slowly get up and managed to call a taxi to rush to the hospital. The doctor advised several months of rest. I was in a state of extreme exhaustion. Lying at home, I would see visions of my wife. "Are you okay? I've made some soup," she'd say. But she's not here anymore. Let me forget. Unable to bear being alone, I decided to visit my mom's house in the countryside when I could move a bit. My parents' home was originally a vegetable farm, now just my mom managing it modestly, selling produce in the town market. My dad had fallen ill a few years ago and had been in and out of the hospital. The scenery of my childhood home, where I lived until high school, was as tranquil as if time had stopped. It's been a while, returning home after so many years. My mom was still energetic as always. "You got laid off, then suddenly started working all night, and now a divorce. You're just worn out, both physically and mentally. You should rest up here for a while," she said. "Yeah, I will," I agreed. At home, I ate the fresh vegetables my mom grew and just slept, leading a simple life. The clear air in the countryside and delicious vegetables seemed to be healing my tired body and soul. After a while, feeling much better and energized, I went to the town supermarket. I had been relying on my mom for so long, I decided to cook for her, so I went shopping. Holding a shopping basket full of items, I lined up at the checkout and couldn't believe my eyes. Linda, my ex-wife, was working the cash register. What was Linda doing here? Her hair was longer and she looked thinner, but it was unmistakably Linda. I changed lines to avoid being seen and quickly paid, then went to sit in my car to think about what had just happened. Why is Linda here? Had she returned to her hometown? What happened to the person she said she loved? My mind was in chaos, in a state of panic. I couldn't just let this go. Eventually, I parked my car next to the employee entrance of the supermarket and decided to wait for her to come out and talk to her. Calling her wouldn't make her come out, and I couldn't just show up at her family's home. This store was closing in another 2 hours. I thought waiting and talking to her directly was the best option. Then, Linda passed by, pulling her bicycle. "Linda!" I shouted, jumping out of the car. Linda looked shocked, her eyes wide open. "Max, what are you doing here?" she asked, looking down, tears welling up in her eyes. "What am I doing? What about you?" She seemed restless as she spoke. "Do you have time tomorrow? I'll email you." "Okay, I'll wait for your message." Then, "See you tomorrow." With those words, she got on her bicycle and left. On my way home, I received an email from her, saying to meet at a cafe near the train station, at noon tomorrow. I spent a sleepless night and headed to the meeting place with my mind in a haze. As I opened the door at the cafe, Linda was already there. She looked tired, with swollen eyelids, maybe from a sleepless night too. I sat down in front of her and ordered a coffee, then quickly drank some water. My heart was pounding, seeing her after such a long time. There were so many things I wanted to ask, but I didn't know where to start. Linda was looking down all the time. There was a long silence. She was the first to break it. "I'm sorry. I couldn't find the words to reply. Have you been well?" That was all I could muster. Then she suddenly covered her face with both hands and started crying. "How can I be okay? I had to leave you, whom I wanted to be with." "What are you talking about? You said you fell for someone else and wanted a divorce," I asked, confused, looking at her crying. Then she started to reveal something shocking. "I never told you, but I have a 3-year-old daughter from my previous marriage. My ex-husband started to believe I was cheating on him, got furious, and demanded a divorce unilaterally. No matter how much I denied it, he wouldn't believe me, and the verbal abuse and fights just increased. I couldn't take it anymore and agreed to the divorce. Of course, I wasn't allowed to see my daughter afterward. Then, out of the blue, I got a call. He was living with his mother, who was taking care of our daughter, but she passed away, and he got ill and said he couldn't take care of her anymore. I couldn't leave my child with him, but I also couldn't bring her to our home. So I thought the only option was to divorce you and go back to my hometown to take care of her." Tears kept falling from her eyes. "I've been struggling every day, wondering what to do. I couldn't bother you with my problems, but I didn't want to leave you. There hasn't been a day I hadn't thought of you. It's my fault. I had something so important and got married. That's terrible," she said in a weak voice, crying aloud. I knew she had been divorced, but I didn't know about the child. I wished she hadn't kept it a secret, but knowing she had suffered alone all this time filled me with an overwhelming sense of heartache. "I'm sorry too, Linda. I was so wrapped up in my own issues that I didn't listen to your problems. Whether you have a child or not, my love for you doesn't change." I grasped her hand, holding a handkerchief firmly with both of mine. "Dad, I've brought some vegetables with Grandma. Serve these pickles at the restaurant too," she said. "Oh, thanks. These cucumbers are really good," I replied. After that, I quit the bar I was working at, sold my house, and came back to my family home. Now, I'm living here with Linda and her child. Somehow, I've started being called Dad by her daughter, and it makes me feel a bit shy every time. Then, I opened a small bar in our town. The restaurant is famous for its healthy menu made with vegetables grown by my mom and is bustling with customers every day. "Honey, oh, Max, should we also serve this onion?" she asked. "Yeah, it's made with good fertilizer. Tastes great," I said. "That's true." Linda is helping out at the restaurant too. My dad, who had been hospitalized, is now out of the hospital and comes to the restaurant for his rehabilitation. A few years ago, I never would have imagined returning to my hometown, opening a bar, living with my parents, Linda, and her child. There were many tough times, but they made me realize how happy I am now. Looking at everyone in the restaurant, I felt energized. All right, let's do our best today. I've delivered your package. I'm John Anderson, 32 years old. I worked for a logistics company in New York, delivering office products for businesses. But due to the recession, our client companies struggled financially, and it impacted our company too. Eventually, the company owner, Morgan, who was already elderly, made the tough decision to shut down the business. And I, as an employee, faced the unfortunate situation of losing my job while still young. I was very fortunate that I managed to get a job at a bigger logistics company. There was even an opening at their branch in my hometown. Around the same time, my father fell ill and was hospitalized. Thinking about my mother's burden and being an only child, I had been wondering if my returning home was the best choice for my family. I ended up accepting the position at their branch with this new company, and that gave me an opportunity to start a new life in my hometown. In early October, when it began to get colder, I moved back to my hometown with loads of luggage. My new company was a major firm, a famous enterprise with many branches. It was quite a change for me as the company I previously worked for in New York was a lot smaller one with only 100 employees. The night before my first day at work, I got so nervous I couldn't sleep. Then came the first day with the new company. During the morning assembly, Edward, the branch manager, briefly introduced me to everyone at present and also asked me to say a few words. Nervously, I stood in front of everyone. Good morning. My name is John, and I have joined the company as a mid-career employee, effective October 15. I hope to become a valuable member of the team as soon as possible. But then, I froze when I saw something. To my surprise, among the employees was my former classmate, David Smith. I was momentarily shaken. However, I managed to keep a smile and to finish my speech. I'll do my best to become a valuable member as soon as possible, and I am looking forward to working with you. As I was about to leave after my speech, I had a quick glance at him. David gave me a sly smile. It sent a chill down my spine, and I had to leave the room in a hurry. David Smith, the man I struggled to deal with in my entire life. He excelled in both sports and academics, graduated from a prestigious university, and stood out in our hometown. In contrast, I was a plain guy whose only trait was being diligent. We weren't exactly enemies in school, though. Despite our differences, we were teammates in the basketball club, sharing both tears and laughter. After practice, my house became the hangout spot, and David would often come over. When he stayed late, my mom would even cook meals for him. But things changed a few years ago when we had a basketball team reunion. David, drunk, started bragging about his education and income. At first, everyone listened to him with a smile, but the atmosphere started to grow tense after a while. Unable to bear it, I finally said, "David, let's change the topic." I tried to sound as cheerful as I could, not wanting to hurt his feelings, but David looked deeply annoyed. "I've always disliked your self-righteous attitude," he said. "And you, a high school graduate, dare to direct me, a university graduate? That's absurd. Don't order me around ever again." His tirade against me lasted 10 minutes, and everyone else left as they were unable to stand it. Since then, I completely avoided him, and I even stopped attending reunions. And now, I had to work with the very person responsible for that trouble. Back home, I vented to my mom. I ended up becoming colleagues with David at my new job. Why did it have to be him? My mom replied, "David, he used to come over to our house a lot, didn't he? I remember his mom bragging about him. She was telling us he worked for a big company and that he was sure to climb the corporate ladder. Looks like you're doing the same too. Besides, you don't choose your job based on who you like or dislike, right?" Despite her advice, I couldn't help feeling down. And my bad feeling turned out to be true. As expected, David started behaving mockingly towards me at work. based on the fact that I only graduated high school and that I lost my job in New York. He would whisper to me when no one else could hear, "Starting over at this age. We're not fresh recruits, you know." I glared back at him in frustration, but he just walked away as if nothing had happened. Another time, he sat next to me in the cafeteria with a colleague. "After gaining experience here, I'm going to be transferred to another branch and climb up the career ladder." He boasted loudly, making sure I could hear him. I couldn't stand his insincerity and left my seat. And when I was nervous doing my first tasks, in front of other employees, he taunted, "Can't you even do that? Oh, right, you used to work only at a small company, where you never had to do such advanced work. High school grads are slow learners." He seemed to enjoy spreading the fact that I only had a high school diploma. Gradually, I started to dread going to work. But with my inherent persistence and seriousness, I clung desperately to my seniors so as to learn the job. I struggled initially with unfamiliar tools and systems and needed to be taught by my seniors. Of course, there were also many tasks I had to learn from David. So, no matter how unreasonable he was to me, I never lost my temper in front of him. Fortunately, since I was in the same industry as my previous job, I understood most of the work and learned very quickly. Enduring David's sarcasm, I gradually got used to the job and was able to handle most tasks within a few months. 6 months had passed since I started working for the company. A trouble occurred. A whole truckload worth of packages wasn't handed over to the driver, and we couldn't deliver hundreds of items that day. We received complaint calls all day, and we spent the entire day dealing with them. Edward and other superiors were furious. They were wondering who made such a mistake. That was when I found a note near the phone. "November 3, Truck 3, please arrange driver. From the office, David." The scribbled note was clearly in David's handwriting. Probably he took the note but forgot to arrange the driver. I hesitated for a few seconds, but came to the conclusion the most important thing was to review internally while we inconvenienced our customers. I couldn't let personal feelings for David obscure the truth. I handed the note to Peter, our manager. "This might be the cause," I whispered to him so no one else could hear. Then I went back to my desk as if nothing happened. Later, he went to Edward's office to report what the cause was for the catastrophe, and David was called into the office. Although it pained me to see him in trouble, I focused on my work. A while later, David, red-faced, came to my desk. "Come to the meeting area later. I have something to talk about, okay?" he said menacingly, then stomped back to his seat. His attitude made it obvious to everyone in the office who was responsible for the mistake. I knew he was probably just going to lash out at me in his frustration. I had no confidence in facing his tirade face to face. But at the same time I wanted to know why he disliked me so much. If someone else had reported it, he wouldn't have been this angry. Slowly, I headed to the meeting area, where David was waiting, clearly irritated. As soon as I arrived, he exploded. "What was that about earlier? Reporting my note to Peter. Is this your revenge for how I've treated you? Are you happy to embarrass me, a college grad, in front of everyone, you high school grad?" He ranted incoherently, raising his voice in anger. But I didn't stay silent this time. I was just following up on the cause of a mistake, and I would have reported it no matter who was involved. We may have been classmates, but now we're colleagues doing the same job. Instead of verbally attacking me all the time, why don't you grow up a little? I retorted, and David's face turned even redder, as if he was about to jump at me. If either of us made a move, it could escalate into a fight. Just as I was thinking this, we were interrupted. "David, isn't it about time you stopped this nonsense? You are terribly wrong." A voice suddenly came from behind me, admonishing David. David, standing in front of me, was utterly surprised, his eyes wide open at the sight of the person speaking. I cautiously turned around and, to my surprise, saw no one but Richard, the president of our company, standing right there. David managed to utter, with great effort, "Richard, why are you here?" The sudden visit by Richard caused a stir in the office. And the usually calm Richard spoke sternly, silencing the office instantly. Yes, it was rare for Richard to visit our branch for inspection. David, who was intimidating me, turned pale upon being overheard by Richard. Richard called us to the conference room. We knocked on the conference room door in silence. We were anxious about what he would say. Entering the room timidly, we found Richard had prepared lots of snacks and coffee for us. He warmly welcomed us when he started speaking in a relaxed tone. I believe, for a company, the most needed talent is someone who can earn people's trust. It's easy to know someone's educational background, but it takes a long time to understand if they are truly trustworthy. With that, he smiled warmly. Then turning to David, he continued, "That's why I want you to reflect on your actions from time to time. Think calmly whether your actions are earning you trust from others." And about hiring John, you see, he had the utmost trust of my good friend Morgan. Yes, he was the president of the company John previously worked for. In other words, John is here because his 10 years of hard work were properly recognized. Richard spoke on behalf of Morgan. My previous workplace wasn't like the current company, lacking even cleaning staff. So, I used to be the first to arrive at the office, cleaning and wiping everyone's desks. I was diligent and even took on the tedious tasks that veterans disliked. I was also a truly dependable person, well liked by both superiors and juniors. That's why I valued John's 10 years of steady efforts. It has nothing to do with his educational background. Richard explained. I was holding back tears, deeply moved. Morgan had arranged my job transfer without my knowledge and had reported my work performance to Richard. I was touched by Morgan's kindness. And I was deeply happy that my modest and serious nature was valued so highly at the company. Meanwhile, David remained silent, still keeping his head down. It seemed Richard's words had hit him hard. Probably his criticism of my education was already an issue in the company. Richard had kept silent out of kindness, but David must have realized the gravity of the situation. After we left the conference room, David hesitantly said, "Can we go to the rooftop and talk?" I nodded silently and followed him. Upon reaching the rooftop, "I'm sorry for the disrespectful way I've treated you until now," David said and apologized profusely. "It's okay, lift your head," I sincerely told him, but he insisted. "No, it's not okay. This isn't just about what happened today. Actually, I've been jealous of you since our school days," David confessed. Then he started talking honestly about his feelings. Despite being seen as a man who could do anything, he admitted that was far from the truth. His parents had a bad relationship, and his mother was obsessed with academic achievement. He grew up constantly scolded by his parents, both of whom worked. David reflected back. "That's why I always envied you during our school days. You had a mom, always smiling unconditionally, and the warm meals at your place." Raised in a very stern environment, which could be considered as educational abuse, David barely made it into his first choice university, only to burn out completely. He somewhat safely landed a job at a major corporation, but without any enthusiasm or hope for the future. At a reunion, hearing about how passionately I was immersed in my work really irked him. "I felt like I had no purpose in life, but you had dreams and goals. That made me jealous, and I started bragging about the one thing I could beat you at. Yes, my education. I'm such a petty man," David admitted and then fell silent. He looked like he was holding back tears. Hearing that, I also opened up. "I was always envious of you too. I really wanted to go to college and be like you, wealthy, smart, and cool. but I couldn't become someone that I am not, so I just tried to give my 100% in everything I do. We shared our honest feelings, and we unexpectedly found ourselves laughing together. That's right, if you keep on looking at people who seem to be doing better than you do, there is no end, and the grass is always greener on the other side. All we can do is try our best with what we have. After our confrontation, David gradually changed his work attitude. He lost his careless manner, bragged less, and eventually became a respected figure at work. He was always a smart man who was good at his job. He rapidly rose in the company and, a few years later, got promoted to the headquarters. I was genuinely happy for his success. By that time, David and I had mended our relationship to the point where we'd go out for drinks together. While celebrating his promotion, David, laughing, started saying, "Now that I can talk about it, it's because of you that I was able to succeed like this. Seeing how well regarded your work was motivated me to get serious." He shared this unexpected revelation. Apparently, our colleagues had been praising my work ethic. I was known for excellent communication skills and also for not repeating the same mistakes and being consistently respectful to everyone. I was being considered as a person of integrity. Hearing this, David had reflected on his own approach to work. He had been perfect in completing his assigned tasks, but never considered making things easier for his colleagues. I was always self-centered. I learned to be considerate towards others, and that was because of you. I guess I had a narrow view of life. David, looking a bit embarrassed, thanked me for helping him learn valuable lessons. But I felt the same way. I respect the effort and change you made to earn everyone's trust. I said, feeling happy and finding myself drinking more beer. We have both grown and were thankful to share a drink together. A few years later, my hard work was recognized and I became the branch manager at another location. Now I'm leading dozens of employees and working hard every day. My father's health improved, and he's now actively working again. The new workplace is just a 2-hour drive from my parents' house, so it suits me fine at this moment. Within the last few years, I also found a reliable partner, and we just had a loving son. From now on, we will be living as a family of 3. All right, I'm going. Have a good day. I will see you later. I ask myself every morning before going to work, have I earned the trust of those I work with? Remembering Richard's words, I step forward brightly into each new day at my new workplace. After working for 5 years since graduating, I received a postcard announcing a high school reunion. I realized I had never attended any reunions since graduation. I am Jacob. Since my university was in the Midwest, I decided to work for a consulting firm in the same area. It takes more than 2 hours to fly to my hometown, so I rarely go back to my parents' house. So I never attended any of my junior high or high school reunions. I've just finished work, so this might be a good opportunity. So I decided to attend this time. I work for a consulting firm specializing in hospitality businesses like hotels, inns, bed and breakfasts, and guest houses. My day starts with checking the operational and booking status of the hotels I manage. Analyzing these figures is a critical part of my job. After that, I have a meeting with the owner or manager at the hotel I am in charge of. It is also an important job to actually go to the hotel and check on the employees and the condition of the hotel's facilities. Then, while having a meeting with the person in charge of the hotel, we come up with new plans and strategies together. Once we have detailed improvements and new plans, etc., I return to the company and create a formal proposal. Once the proposal is completed, I have another meeting at the hotel. My job involves visiting accommodation facilities throughout Japan throughout the year, so perhaps the best way to describe it would be to travel from place to place. July and August are the summer holidays, so accommodations are busy. On the other hand, consulting jobs get busier after summer vacation and into winter vacation. I thought I would be able to attend a class reunion in August and also go home. On the day of the reunion, when I entered the venue, half of the class had already gathered. "Hey, long time no see." Approaching with a beaming smile was Bob. "Oh, long time no see. How have you been?" Bob and I were doubles partners in the table tennis club during high school. As we caught up with each other's recent happenings, a few girls gathered around us. "Hi." Just then, my eyes met with one of the women. "Jacob, it's been a while, hasn't it?" The one who spoke first was Amelia. Actually, she was my high school girlfriend. I went to a university in the Midwest, and Amelia attended a local community college. Eventually, our long-distance relationship didn't last long. We parted somewhat spontaneously. "Oh, long time no see. How have you been?" "Yeah. Did you end up working in the Midwest, Jacob?" "Yes. What about you, Amelia?" "After I graduated from community college, I worked for a little over 3 years at a French restaurant in the next town, but my grandmother's health hasn't been great, so now I'm helping at her restaurant. My parents live in a different state due to work and can't come here often, so I'm looking after grandma in the restaurant." "I see. That must be tough. How's your grandma doing?" "She's much better recently." As we talked like this, the guys around started saying, "If Amelia's at the restaurant, maybe we should visit." I might go too, and the conversation got more animated. Then, "Wow, you guys want to go to that rundown restaurant? It's so old it could close down any time," a mean voice said. It was Abby. Abby's parents run a big company around here, and she's always been snobby and looked down on others, a type I've never liked. "Abby, that's not a nice way to talk." As I said this, Abby got even more agitated and continued her insults. "Well, it's true. The place is old and run down, and what if cockroaches come out there? No one would want to eat at such a poor-looking restaurant," she said condescendingly. Then Amelia retorted, "That's horrible. Don't say such irresponsible things." The area went silent for a moment. Abby, possibly drunk, said, "I'll get some drinks," and went to the bar area, poured herself a full glass of wine, and walked back towards us, glaring at Amelia. "Huh?" It seemed Abby wasn't done yet. "She doesn't have to come back." I was about to leave, when I tried to push her back by saying, "Amelia, let's move to the other table." Abby stumbled. "Oh no." I instinctively stepped in front of Amelia. Splash! The wine hit me right in the face. Ach! I stood there, drenched in wine, stunned. Amelia hurriedly offered her handkerchief, saying, "Oh no, Jacob, are you okay?" Abby, obviously drunk, laughed. "Look at Jacob covered in wine. Ha ha ha, that's what you get for getting in my way," and then staggered off towards another table. The girls were like, "What?" Abby just left without apologizing. Typical self-centered behavior. Amidst this, Amelia got a towel from the staff for me. I cleaned the wine off my face and hair in the restroom, and when I came out, Amelia rushed over to me. "Thanks for this. I really appreciate you getting the towel." She then apologized, looking guilty. "Jacob, you shielded me from getting splashed. I'm sorry." No, it's not your fault at all." I smiled, trying to reassure her. "You always worry too much, Amelia, just like old times," I said, and she looked surprised for a moment, then smiled at me with the same kindness she always had. As the party was wrapping up and we were heading to the exit, she caught up with me. "Jacob, my grandma's place is nearby. Your shirt got stained, so why don't you stop by?" "Oh, but I don't want to impose," I said, though I was actually curious about her grandma's restaurant. "It's better to get the stain out quickly." "Well, I'll stop by for a bit." So we headed to her restaurant together. Along the way, she apologized again. I'm really sorry about this." "It's okay. You've apologized enough." I playfully tapped her on the head and laughed, and she laughed along. "Our shop is called Taylor," she said, pointing to a rather old building. "It looks pretty spacious." "Yeah, there are 6 private rooms for parties on the 2nd floor. It's fairly large." The restaurant was much bigger than I had imagined. When I entered the store, there were no customers and it was empty. Her grandmother is preparing food in the back. "Grandma, this is Jacob, a high school classmate." "Good evening, I'm Jacob. Sorry to bother." "Welcome, you were at the reunion together today." Her grandmother had the elegant and calm demeanor of a traditional woman. "Grandma, Jacob's shirt got stained with wine." "Oh dear, we need to treat that quickly. Jacob, can I take your shirt?" I took off my shirt and handed it to her. "Amelia, remember this too. Mix liquid oxygen bleach with baking soda powder and knead well. Once it turns into a paste, apply it to the stain with a toothbrush and tap it gently, making sure not to scrub. Then, pour a solution of citric acid dissolved in water over the stain. Finally, rinse thoroughly with water and dry it with a hairdryer." She explained as she worked, and quickly removed the stain. It was amazing. Like a professional cleaner. As I stood there amazed, Amelia handed me the dry shirt, saying, "Grandma's amazing." In the end, Abby didn't apologize even once. Amelia frowned. That's typical Abby. Even at this age, some things never change. As we talked about the reunion, her grandmother brought out beer and omelet. I was surprised when I took a bite. It was incredibly delicious. "This omelet is so fluffy and incredibly tasty." "Oh, I'm glad you think so. Feel free to eat as much as you want." Then, we were treated to stew and salmon grilled on magnolia leaves. Each dish was an absolute delicacy, flawlessly delicious. And not just tasty, but also elegantly presented. "Excuse me for asking, but despite such exquisite dishes, it seems like you don't have many customers." Grandma nodded in agreement, and Amelia said, "You're right. Maybe we should advertise more on social media in this day and age." She then said seriously, "We're really struggling with the business. Even though the cost of vegetables and seafood has skyrocketed, Grandma absolutely refuses to raise prices, and we don't have many customers." "I see, but you don't want to lose this place. If I lived in this town, I'd visit every day or every week. It's that good." They both seemed pleased when I told them this. I was thinking about what I could do for this restaurant. It must be fate that brought me here today. I wanted to help these 2 people who are having a trouble. That's it. An idea popped into my head. I work in consulting for hotels and inns, like bed and breakfasts and pensions. Maybe I could help with attracting customers to this place. I suggested, and she momentarily looked pleased, but then said, "Oh, but we're not in a position to afford consulting fees." Grandma also looked sad. "Leave that to me. I'll find a sponsor." "A sponsor?" "Yes. Partner with shopping malls or companies for sales or giveaway campaigns, including meal vouchers from this restaurant. Then ask customers who dine here to post on social media or food review sites, and offer them coupons to turn them into repeat customers. What do you think of this idea?" "I don't fully understand, but it sounds like a great plan." "Yes, I think so too." They both brightened up. "If this plan works and we double our customer base, I'll come back to talk about a consulting contract." I promised to bring potential sponsors soon and left the restaurant. I immediately picked a few of my company's business partners and proposed the idea. I invited the managers from these partners, along with their families, to dine there. Amelia and her grandmother's cooking pleased everyone. Soon, we got an offer for a partnership from a shopping center affiliated with a hotel chain. They wanted to use meal vouchers from Taylor as prizes for a lottery during a winter sale. We then created a website for the restaurant. I kept the design simple and showed Amelia how to update it. We also set up official social media accounts and posted various menu items. Wow, our dishes look delicious in these photos, Grandma said, peering at the cell phone. Then, travel agencies and hotels in the same prefecture began to offer lunch vouchers for Taylor as an optional service for their guests. A few months later, I was back at Taylor for a meeting. To my surprise, the president of a national hotel chain, Thomas, was there to meet us. Nice to meet you, I'm Thomas. I actually dined here recently with my sister. The food was even better than the rave reviews online. Grandma smiled as she listened to the president. Amelia thanked him, saying, "Is that so? Thank you very much. However, the aging of the building does concern me. Wouldn't it be nice to remodel it, keeping a classic atmosphere but adding a touch of an Thomas suggested. Indeed, such a remodel could attract even more customers. But Amelia looked a bit sad. Yes, that's true. But until recently, we hardly had any customers. Our business is quite. Thomas then made an offer. I know. How about this? My company could sponsor your restaurant and provide the remodeling. How does that sound? What? We all exchanged surprised looks. Thomas continued, our hotel in the same prefecture would like to offer lunch at your restaurant to our guests. I've brought a remodeling design proposal. Here's the plan. The design he showed was elegant, emphasizing the warmth of wood, fitting for a fine dining establishment. I couldn't help but exclaim, this is wonderful. It perfectly matches the refined and delicate taste of Taylor's dishes. I then asked for Amelia and her grandmother's opinions. I think this offer is beneficial for both the restaurant and its future customers. What do you two think? Amelia answered first. I can think of a more gracious offer, right, Grandma? Yes, but is it really okay to take advantage of such a wonderful offer? I feel a bit guilty, Grandma said, looking at Thomas. Thomas reassured her, no need to feel guilty at all. This is an investment for our company. I believe that Taylor's lunches will become a highlight of our services. I'm certain this restaurant will be hard to book in 6 months. Encouraged by Thomas's words, Grandma decided to accept the proposal. A year later, Taylor had transformed beyond recognition from its once rundown state into a beautifully renewed establishment. I love the calming atmosphere of this wood decor. Yeah, it's blissful to enjoy such delicious food in this soothing environment. The package deal combining a meal at Taylor with a hotel stay proved to be more popular than anticipated. Many customers returned, and now regulars were increasing, leading the restaurant to adopt a reservation-only system. Naturally, the number of chefs increased, and Grandma's recipes were being passed on to the younger cooks. Grandma, stimulated by the new environment, began coming up with more innovative recipes. Seeing the restaurant's success, the parents of the locally famous Abby, thinking that the restaurant business was profitable, opened a large restaurant next to Taylor. However, it was deserted and closed within a few months. The debt incurred became a burden, and it became well known locally that the once grand mansion of Abby's family was put up for sale. Abby's whereabouts and activities now remain unknown. As for me, I still haven't mustered the courage to ask Amelia to start over, but I feel the day I'll make my second confession to her is close. I want to continue seeing Amelia and her grandmother's smiles forever.